Girl, real talk. This whole "it's a new year, time to reinvent myself" trash is not the vibe for 2024. You can find someone who loves you for you, as you are. You don't need to read a stack of self-help books, only eat sad salads, or start meditating at 5 a.m. to be ready for dating. So yeah, my advice is to download Bumble and find someone who embraces you the way you are right now. Let me know how it goes.
See, I'm thinking legendary British wordsmith. My enemies and crew are thinking Shakespeare. Little things like that make me happy.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Underrated. This is a podcast where we discuss films that we think are underrated, underappreciated, and ones that have flown under the radar and passed most people by. I am Derek McDuff, one of your hosts, and joining me as always are Alan Torres.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
And Ariel Ortiz.
Hi everybody, how's it going?
And we are the Undercast Company, and today, for our episode on Stardust, it's actually a very important milestone for us because this marks our 100th episode of Underrated. So this is a big one. That's not counting the other podcast stuff we've done, bonus things and other podcasts and, Patreon episodes. But as far as the main feed goes, this is the centennial episode talking about Stardust. So I don't know. I just wanted to say, guys, it's been really fun doing this so far with you guys. So I'm excited to get into this one. And to give anyone listening out there some background, the reason we decided to choose this film for our 100th episode is, and I might have told this story before, but so bear with me. We had always, the three of us had been big podcast fans, big film fans, and we'd had so many great conversations about film, and we wanted to turn it into a podcast for a long time, and we'd done some stuff together in podcasting, but we didn't really have a concrete idea for a show that we would have going forward. And one day we were in our group texting, and one of you guys brought up hey, what's everybody doing? And I was just like, I'm watching Stardust. And then I think it was you, Alan, was like, oh, super underrated movie. And then all of us together were kind of like, that's it. That's the fucking idea. And from then on, we had the idea for the podcast, Underrated. And we just never covered Stardust for the first 30 or 40 episodes. And then we were like, let's save it. Let's make it a special moment when we actually cover this movie. So we all obviously have enjoyed this movie. I have a lot of personal history with it, but I've been talking a lot. So to start off the discussion of the actual movie, what did you guys think of the film?
Well, I think the reason why it sparked our creation of this podcast is because it is such an iconic, underrated film. It's become just like, I know one of the short-lived podcasts I listened to, Out of Roost Teeth, which I listened to a lot of their podcasts. Their movie club that was short-lived. Their first episode was on Stardust. I'm like, and they wanted to talk about it just to bring it to the masses, and which is kind of something that we do. We tried to strive for as well on this podcast. And so I was like, oh yeah, of course, Stardust. I've loved it since it first came out, and I watched it. I mean, it's just a fantastic, fairy tale movie. Neil Gaiman, of course, writing and of the original book, and just knocks out of the park of how he could twist all these different, whatever mythology he touches, he twists it to his own and makes it so incredible and so unique and so relatable. And I think that's why this movie has been such an endearing classic among, some circles. And unfortunately, didn't get, I wouldn't say the critical success, but it definitely didn't get the popular success when it was in theaters. I did watch this in theaters because it was from the start, I was like, this looks awesome. I think I went and watched it with my mom and my dad and my brother. Just the whole draw of the cast as well, mainly from Robert De Niro and his awesome character of Captain Shakespeare.
Is so good in this.
And,
I'm gonna go on about it.
Yeah, we'll go on about it later on. But that was one of the original draws, and I think what a lot of people kind kind of got drawn into the movie. We could go in more of like why some people, stupid people, might see that as a critique of like what his character ended up being. But I just love that character so much, and yeah, it's just the beauty of this like a love story between a man and or a boy, I would say, becoming a man and a star, and that idea of a star, and all these different like essentially three. It's like kind of like three stories in one that all like converge at the end. And it's a really awesome telling of it, very well paced. And then, of course, like which we'll go into more of how looking back on it now, there's all these actors that came out of it that are now household names. Like specifically, one being in everybody's mind and being spoken by everybody this last week of Henry Cavill.
Mm-hmm.
In the smallest part you could ever imagine, but he's there, and then yeah, like fantastic chemistry between the mains of Claire Danes and then our boy Daredevil Matt Murdock, my boy, our boy, man. Love him.
Weird to see him look at things,
just
right?
a younger version. Yeah, just a young version of him, with a good amount of hair and stuff. but yeah,
feathered
like,
and lethal.
Yeah, just he always gets me, like Tristan. That's what I think like whenever a character's name is Tristan, like they're a keeper. They're a keeper. Him, and then as well, Ryu McGregor's character in Moulin Rouge. Tristan.
Okay,
Tristan.
okay.
There you go.
I don't know. Yu-Gi-Oh! I
Find
think throws
yourself a
that theory
Tristan,
off,
ladies. Who throws that
it's
theory off?
Tristan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Throws that theory off because fuck that guy.
Oh, I don't know. Love stories. Tristan, like if they're involved in a love story, they're good.
Well, yeah, because it comes from Arthurian myth, Tristan and Isolde. That's what Romeo and Juliet ripped off of.
Oh my god, I remember the ads for that movie. That's all it was. Like every ad was like before Romeo and Juliet. It was Tristan and what is it, Ebola or something? Whatever it's called.
Isolde.
Yeah, that's what
that had James
That's
Franco?
what Shakespeare ripped off of. Is that part of the Arthur myth?
Is that the movie with James Franco?
No one remembers.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I just remember the ads.
It's been lost. It's been lost to history.
Yeah, getting back to it. This Tristan, love him, but yeah, Alan, what are your first thoughts? In talks.
Well,
about
well, yeah. I mean, I remember at the time. I mean, we all worked at a bookstore together, and at the time, for me, it was, customer service fucking sucks in general. So, but the thing is, I worked at a bookstore. We all worked at a bookstore, and I love books. And I literally have books all over the place, like fucking all over. So I was like, we had a discount, so I'd use that discount every fucking paycheck, buy another book, and I got into like Neil Gaiman. Ironically enough, I haven't read the Stardust novel, but I read like his other stuff, Sandman, American Gods, etc. And Stardust, I was like, well, I'm gonna watch the movie, and I watched the movie. I don't remember who I saw it with, but I remember going, holy shit, like this is a very underrated film, like I'd never heard of other than the book, but I was like, whoa, like it's a lot, like it gives so much. So I guess when we were brainstorming the idea for the podcast, it definitely was one of those in the back of our minds where we were like, oh shit, like it gives a lot. And it's wild to believe that this film isn't as recognized, especially with the cast that it has now. I know that's the typical, like, oh my god, back then, Kevin Bacon, Friday the 13th, Johnny Depp, Nightmare on Elm Street, whatever. Like, you don't know how big they were going to be, especially with this cast. Like, it was such a pre-ensemble cast that we didn't know was an ensemble.
Claire Danes was well known at that point. I mean, she already did My So-Called Life. I think she did Romeo and Juliet. Speaking of Romeo and Juliet, she had done Romeo and Juliet already. So I think she was definitely her and Robert Downey Jr.
Robert
Robert
De
De
Niro.
Niro.
Oh yeah,
Robert
Yeah, I
De
think
Michelle
they
Niro
have
had
the
the big
Pfeiffer.
names.
yeah,
Oh, and
But
Michelle
there
Michelle
was
Pfeiffer.
like
Yeah,
Pfeiffer
they have
for
the
sure.
big
Yeah.
names as the
Yeah.
supporting roles, other than Claire Danes. Like it's funny because
Mhm.
like the two of them are like, especially De Niro. He's like not in that much. Like he's a big part of the movie. He's not in that, but they're like big on the poster, like the
Yeah,
biggest
Yeah.
parts of the
Yeah.
poster.
Yeah.
the DVD, the poster.
Mhm.
Anytime it's on streaming, it's like Michelle. Like you would believe that Michelle Pfeiffer was like a fairy godmother, and Robert De Niro might be like the hero's dad or some shit. Like
Mhm.
Charlie Cox and Claire Danes are like so small in that poster. You are very much led to believe that you're like maybe Michelle Pfeiffer's like the hero or something, and no, she's like a witch. But yeah, and even me back then, it passed me by. I didn't see it till like, but when did this movie come out? Like 2007 ish,
No. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
2007, and I think
Yeah.
I saw like 8 years later, maybe at the most. So it's like, yeah, I think that's roughly when the idea, the podcast for everybody was brewing. But I guess to dive right into it, yeah, it's a banger of a film. It's so much fun. Like it's so weird because it feels like such an epic adventure, and only 2 hours and 7 minutes. Like there was
Yeah.
times where I was like, "Damn, this movie's really long." And then when I because I rewatched it this morning, and when I finished it, I was like, 2 hours and 7 minutes? Holy shit! Like it felt like so much was going on. The beginning kind of has like it's slightly slow in the beginning, just a little bit, but not enough to make you like turn it off or anything. But when it picks up, it just picks up and picks up, and it keeps going, and it keeps getting bigger, and just more shit starts happening, more characters introduced, and you're just constantly having a blast with it. And it has like it's one of those great fantasy films that just encapsulates all these great genres, where it's just kind of like you got your fantasy, and then you kind of got like you got your swashbuckling, action, magic, dark magic, whatever. Like it's so great. I love when films do that. And Neil Gaiman's just a great writer. He's just a great world builder in general. So like it reminds me a lot of Neverwhere, which that's a whole thing on its own. I would love to see a theatrical version of Neverwhere. But yeah, like when you watch it, if you're a fan of his writing, you're gonna see like just the Neil Gaiman isms throughout. But yeah, and like it's just a blast. Like, but yeah, I don't want to go too into it just yet. I know we're all kind of just starting up, so I want to hear what you guys got to say.
Yeah,
No, going
like
off of that with the going off of that with the world building, like I mean, yeah, I think it's just how well Neil Gaiman is. I don't know how much like involvement he had. I'm sure he did because he usually tends to have a lot of involvement in like adaptations of his writings. And when he doesn't, it kind of goes downhill as of like American Gods. But I feel like he did have a good say on this movie because it's just the naturalist of how this world is built is very Neil Gaiman. It's just so organic and of building it. It doesn't say much, but you get so much of like what this world is and how, and it's so well built upon like brick by brick. I mean, just the whole like, okay, you start off with like, okay, this is an alternate universe and our world still exists, but this is just another pocket reality. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know the mechanics of it, why it exists, how it exists, just that, it just exists. And then okay, yes, there's a kingdom, there's kings, there's a bloodline of royalty that or kill each other, and because they whichever one survives becomes the king, and it's just all this world building is so, it's not over cumbersome like a lot of world building it has become, like, and it's just so simple, and like it just tells you what you need to know to enjoy the adventure and to understand the adventure, and that's all you need. It won't get it doesn't give you more or less, it just gives you the right amount. It's a very like Goldilocks world building and story to tell, and I think that's with that it allows you to enjoy that story because you're not thinking about anything else. You're just thinking about what's in front of you, and like I said, it is three storylines, but there's just so intertwined with each other, then like they become even more and more intertwined. It's like, a braid, three
Yeah,
strands of braid
they just flow so well together. Like just
yeah,
That
flow
that
into
was
a
that was one of my notes
complete
that I
braid.
had is like a lot of times you will see in movies there'll be the different storylines and they won't really be connected. And in this one, even though on first glance it seems like these are pretty separate storylines, they are like it's like okay, well, what does Mark Strong really have to do with the witches and stuff? But they all are really interwoven in a way when they cross over at the ending. The finale for all three of those storylines feels so compelling or organic where it's not like, okay, well, now we deal with this character, now we deal with this character. It's like, no, all of their finales have naturally been leading to this, and it's really, really great screenwriting. But yeah, just to touch on also just like, because you guys both brought up the world building, and I think that Neil Gaiman is one of the all-time goats of world building. Like, his world building stuff in all of his novels and his graphic novels and everything is so incredible, which is why I think time after time his adaptations have been so good. Like stuff like this, obviously,
Sandman.
Coraline, Sandman, yeah. They're all so good because he makes these great worlds inhabited by these super fascinating characters. I think he's a really good writer who just is so cinematic in the way that he describes things that they lend themselves so naturally to adaptations, especially when you have someone like Matthew Vaughn at the helm, who I'm a huge Matthew Vaughn fan.
Oh
And
yeah,
this
you know
kind
me.
of like, yes, me and you both. Like this whole like fantasy, just fun world that he creates out of this because the book is a little more dour, like the book is good, but I think the movie is vastly superior. And that's something that Gaiman talked about a little bit, is that it does have a very different tone. The ending is in the book is much different. The ending is much more just kind of like it just kind of ends, whereas this has that great finale with all the battles and that amazing sword fight where Mark Strong is being controlled by like a voodoo doll. I thought that was just so interesting and creative. So I think all of that is just really interestingly woven into the movie, and what it really reminds me of with all of these tones, because there are a lot. This is like a comedy, fantasy, romance, like there's a lot of genres going on in a way that the movie that it reminds me of a lot, and I'm not the first one to say this by any means, but it's something that I definitely thought of, was this is a lot like The Princess Bride, because it does have that same like oh, what is this a story about? Sword fights, swashbuckling, revenge, it's got it all. And this is that same kind of thing. And just like how The Princess Bride was not a huge hit at first, like Princess Bride did not make a lot of money at the box office. I think it did, and just like this movie did okay with critics. Like this movie has a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is good, but it's not great. It's not like this is like, oh wow, a classic that all the critics love. The core of the critics didn't like it, roughly. And people liked it, and it's kind of become a cult classic over the years. But that's one of the reasons why I think this is so underrated, is that it is one of these great cult classics that at the time people were like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. Not a lot of people saw it, and it really, I hope, like, it has started to build up this reputation. I hope it continues to build this reputation over the years for being the classic that is, because honestly, this is probably in my top 10 films of that decade. Like, this is a movie if somebody's like, anytime's like, hey, I'm going to put on Stardust, I'll absolutely watch it. I always have so much fun watching this movie. Everyone in it is having a blast. Like, we talked about how good De Niro is and how good everyone is. Even the bit players are like people who are really good. Even somebody like I'm caught or cold on. Like, I think Ricky Gervais is really funny in this. Like, he's perfectly cast as just like this kind of like, he's almost just David Brent, but in a fantasy world, just like two-faced dog. I can get you one of those, And I really do think the Academy, they will never do it, but should be looking at movies like this for like stuff like Best Supporting Actor or Best Supporting Actress. Like, I think both Kidman and De Niro give incredible performances.
Pfeiffer?
Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer, who, oh my god, I love her so much. They give these incredible performances that are not going to get recognized because it's this one of these mid-budget movies that are frankly disappearing. You're not going to get a It just makes me sad that you're really not going to get a lot of these movies that are made for around $100 million that have a pretty good cast. They're based on not a huge IP, maybe something that it's a book or something, but not like a wide known thing. And I really don't think we would get a movie like Stardust or The Princess Bride today, and that bums me out. And that's all the more reason that I think people should go back to this one and watch it, if not for either for the first time or revisit it again, because you'll have a good time, and it's even like Peter O'Toole is in this fucking movie as the evil king. Like, he's just having a good. He's like he's fucking Lawrence of Arabia in this movie. He's just like, I'm the evil king. Kill your brother. I'm dead. Like, and then Mark Strong, as one of my favorite villainous actors ever, is just hamming it up, having a great time. Like, there's nothing not to love in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like, unfortunately, like I love Matthew Vaughn's not Guy Ritchie, Matthew Vaughn's movies. And I think that unfortunately for him, not in a bad way, but for the reason why you're saying, these are the type of movies that he makes, and he makes them so well. They're so enjoyable, like Kingsman. It's just these awesome, like middle, I guess you said middle budget kind of movies, where it doesn't take much. It's not like high, but the story carries the movie. Like the actual story and the characters specifically, like, make it so endearing and like and lovable. Like it's so much passion that you could see, and like you could see these actors like having fun with this type of movie. Like he's like he's essentially is like a cult classic machine. Kick-Ass is a cult classic. Kingsman is pretty much a cult classic as well, and then this one,
give him another fucking X-Men movie already. Like, seriously.
I know
First Class
First
is so
Class
goddamn
is like
good.
one of the best
Awesome.
ones. Oh my
First Class
gosh.
is so goddamn good.
Speaking of that, like such memorable, he just creates memorable moments but character driven memorable moments.
Yeah.
Like this one with the whole like Tristan, finally like revealing or admitting that he loves I can never
Yvonne?
pronounce it.
Danes.
Yvonne? How do you say it again?
Yvain.
Sorry.
Yvonne?
Yvain.
Oh,
It's
Yvain,
not
yeah.
Yvonne. Yeah.
Yvain.
Yvain. Yeah. And like that whole endearing kind of thing with just between two characters, and it's like just such a quiet moment. The dancing scene with her and Robert De Niro, and like how he like says like, I know what you are, but you're safe here, and like all it's just such endearing moments. And then like in his other movies like Kingsman,
And
like,
real
just,
fast on that scene, it does such a good thing. It does the rule of threes, so well, where he's like, what do stars do? And then it's played off for a joke that time, and he's like, not. She's like, what do stars do? Not the waltz. And then it's played off a joke again when Tristan says it later, and then that fucking great moment at the end where she's like, what do stars do? Shine, and bam, she just fucking explodes the witch. Oh my god, that's such a fucking. That's how you write a screenplay. Like, God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, yeah, man. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm just saying, like, like Matthew Vaughn is one of my favorite directors for that reason, writer director for that reason, because he just pulls off these awesome moments of character, and like for me, character is like the most important thing to a movie.
And I also want to shout out Jane Goldman, who has been his writing partner on this film and a lot of his films. She's done the Kingsman with him, all three Kingsman films, and then, or at least two of them, Kick-Ass, and then also X-Men First Class and Future Past, which Vaughn also wrote but didn't direct, which is why I think that movie's still pretty solid.
That's why the story's pretty,
Yeah, it's a solid movie, but you can feel like the lack.
Yeah. That was supposed to be the third one. That was supposed to be for the, like, the No Way Home, where they bring back the old cast and the new one, and then they were like, no, we're going to make it the second one, and that's why the movies went downhill after that, because they had nothing else to build to, but that's a whole other thing. That's why he also left the directing that movie. Yeah. I really, real fast, guys, I wanted to, because we touched on it, talk about De Niro's performance, because I think that it is a really, really solid performance, and I think that in another movie, a lesser movie, that would be played as the joke. Like it's like, oh, he's this gay pirate, you know, like that would be the whole joke. He's effeminate and stuff like that. And in this movie, it's like it's so, to me, I felt really like it was really powerful and moving because he's like basically just motivated by he can't be himself because of toxic masculinity. And it's a smaller storyline, and it's one of the few storylines that doesn't really come back in the end, but you do see him in the end, and he does get that acceptance. And it's just, you know, it's not ever played for laugh. It's not ever like, oh, he's the joke, you know. It's there's like moments where he's funny, and you know he's doing something funny, but it's not like he's not like, oh, look at this guy, this is so, let's make fun of him. It's never mean spirited. And like the crew, when they like see him, they're like, yeah, we know who you are, we accept you, you know, like that's fine. And Mark Strong is just like, Mark Strong says something to him, he calls him like, I don't know, some name, but then
it sounds like a slur. For sure. It sounds like a weird slur, but I was like, I don't know what that means.
It's something British,
yeah.
But like he's, you know, obviously the bad guy, and the fact that he thinks he needs to put on this performance to be this like Captain Shakespeare, which is also really great. He's just like, he's like, I love that for me. It's my enemies think Shakespeare, and I think one of the greatest poets of all time. Like he's doing this incredible deep performance that is in no way insulting, in my opinion. It is just really powerful and is really commenting on the toxic masculinity thing, and just saying that like, yeah, we don't need it. You don't need to have this toxic masculinity thing. You can be yourself, and no matter what, the people who care about you will accept you. And I thought that was, for me, that was a really powerful moment and I did like the little gag at the end too, where he winks at Henry Cavill or whatever. I thought that was great. I was like,
okay.
Okay.
So
I want to ask you about that. Is that supposed to be like there was a deleted scene or something, or was that him just trying to like hit on Henry Cavill's character?
Him hitting on Henry Cavill's character, and
like,
the
thing is,
Henry Cavill like, oh hi.
Yeah, Henry Cavill looks back at him just like, oh hey, what's up? And I'm just like, Superman and like just the biggest like
mafia
dude ever flirting is like something you'd never see ever. But
Alan, I've got a movie for you. It's called Death Trap. It's from the 80s. It's got Superman and Alfred as a gay couple in it.
Yeah.
Chris Reeves and
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine?
Yeah.
Death Trap. Really? Okay, I gotta look that up. That's awesome. But no, yeah, and you know what I like too is that like I think a lot of people probably think of De Niro as like his lighter roles, I guess, might be in like those really shitty comedies.
Yeah,
which I feel like those are mainly for like money. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure they're like,
the Paris one is a legit a good movie, but
a movie speaking of movies that like just draw out the like obnoxiousness of a joke and stuff like that, those are the movies that like utilize like that have that humor.
Ones where he's like Zach what's his name,
Zac Efron's
grandpa or something.
I
can skip those.
Grandpa or whatever.
Those are whatever. I can skip those. They're fine.
Those are all roles for like, you know, like for the studios, and they're like, fuck it, you know what? I want to buy myself a new house, or I want to whatever. I'm pretty sure it's Robert De Niro, but like what I love about this,
Tribeca Film Festival needs more money in order to function. You know.
Yeah, and like, you know, I feel like a lot of people go, oh well, Joker, he was like not himself. He was more of just like a late night guy, and I'm like, yeah, but that movie's not, it's kind of ass. But
it's also they play for the Joker. They got him as a late night show because of a movie, a critically acclaimed movie. Did. Yeah, King.
Which is Joker's just a rip off of early Scorsese.
Exactly, King Comedy and Taxi Driver. But yeah, and what I like is that this is a very, very underrated performance. It's just he's such a big star, like household name, and when you see him do this wonderful performance, it's just so out of like left field. But it's wonderful, and it's sweet, and it's not making fun of anyone, just like you were saying, Derek. I really love that. And especially me and my girlfriend had this discussion the other day, because I was in this Discord server, and everybody was kind of, they were bringing up a lot of movies, and I hadn't seen a lot of them. There's a lot of Pixar and a lot of like Christmas comedy films. And I was like, I don't really watch them. If it just doesn't catch me, I'm not going to watch it. And a lot of that type of humor is very like secondhand cringe and very like, let's kind of make fun of a character for who they are or whatever. And I fucking hate that because I get really bad like secondhand cringe and embarrassment.
Yep.
So one of my favorite types of comedy, which sadly isn't very popular because a lot of people like that type of mean humor, that kind of like, you know, if the character deserves it, like they're a fucking villain and they're a piece of shit, then sure, yeah, pick on them all you want because it's kind of like karma, they're getting it back. But yeah, it was just one of those where I was like, I kind of like when the characters are funny for who they are and not because of like what they are.
Mhm.
They're funny because, you know, hey, that's their quirk, and it's just like real life. Like, hey, we all have our little quirks, and we're funny, and we are who we are. But like, it's not mean spirited, and I love that, and I really love his performance because of that. Because you can tell he's having a great time with it, and there's so much respect towards like the character, and it's wonderful. And the big thing I like about this film is that it's, as much as I love the horrible tragic ending and just shit goes out the window, it's hopeless or whatever, this is one of those awesome films that is just so hopeful, so sweet, so cute. And when you finish it, you just can't feel bad. Like, you just feel great. Everything, like, you know, it's just like, it's a heartwarming film. Like, when I was watching it again this morning, I was like, I forgot how great it was, even though I'd seen it before. And I was like, I bet if I was, you know, if I was born in like 2000, you know, 10 years later, and I grew up watching this, I feel like this would have been one of those films that I rented all the time as a kid because it's so much fun. And I feel like it's kind of fun for like all ages too. Like, there's really no like, you could show it to anybody, your buddies, you could show it to your kids, you could show it to anyone. Like, I feel like it's an all ages film that I know sometimes treads this line of like, all ages, oh, it's going to be a kid movie. And that means some people aren't going to like it. And they're going to be like, it's a kid movie, I don't want to watch that, whatever. And even kids sometimes are like, it's like a kid movie, I don't want to watch that. I want to watch something harder or whatever. This is like a perfect, like, just everyone has a great time with it.
Yeah, it's what they would call a real 4-quadrant film in a way that doesn't feel artificial. Like, oh, we got to just stick this character in so that, like, you know, the teen girls will have somebody watch, or stick this character in so like the over 45 men will have some. It feels like organically this is a movie for everyone.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's dark, which you know, Neil Gaiman is awesome at doing. Like, and I haven't read. I think Alan, you said you read the Graveyard Book, but I've heard like that is essentially that, like, or Coraline. You know, there's darkness to it, but it's so organic because there is darkness in real life. You know, whether you know you're a kid or you know an adult, there's always some element of darkness to life. That's just the duality of life itself, and that's why there's such pure stories and so long lasting, and so like they are easy to latch onto.
Yeah.
I always kind of thought of it as like a lot of the best films that are kind of like, I mean, maybe fantasy based, sci-fi based, or whatever. I feel like you kind of have to add a pinch of darkness, just a little bit of spooky, a little bit of like, you know, it's kind of more of like a thrill. Like, you kind of just need a little bit of that dark, where like even kids go, oh, that kind of gave me nightmares, but I still want to watch that again, and I still want to check it out because, you know, it's like how people say, oh, like Return of Oz scared the shit of them when they were kids, or like I was thinking about this movie called Little Nemo in Dreamland, where it's like this animated film, and I remember there was some scene, I haven't seen it in like 20-30 years, so like, you know, I just remember there was like a door and this demon, and they're super fucking scary. But I remember I watched that movie a lot as a kid just because there's that like pinch of darkness that kind of just it's the spice for films.
And even though Vaughn does direct with such lightness and fun, he does also do that aspect so well, you know, combined with the Gaiman's original like vision. And when you give the put the darkness in the world and you have these things for the characters to overcome, it's that much more cathartic at the end when they do get the happy ending. They do have their wildest dreams come true. And I think that fairy tales are dark. Fairy tales are dark as fuck. and people forget that a lot of the time. But Gaiman does a really good job of taking these fantasy and fairy tale tropes and playing with them and living with them, and then just kind of subverting them enough, like, oh, the lost princess, like the star, and he just like kind of gives you the setup for those, but then he tweaks the things so that your expectations are really subverted when you get the payoff for that. And I think it's really masterfully done here.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, Gaiman's really, really good at that. I think that's like his bread and butter is just fantasy with a little bit of like dark fantasy thrown in there. He's like a master at it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So if I want to change gears a little bit right now, because we've been talking about all of the incredible world building in the script and all that, that's my thing. I'm come from like an acting and writing background, so I'm always impressed by that. But this rewatch, I was also really taken by a lot of the technical things about the movie. Like, I mean, it is a little bit dated with the CG and stuff, with it being 2007, but for the most part, it looks pretty good. Like, when they're just like standing in the clouds, I thought that was so cool. Or like, like the flying pirate ship and stuff. All that is great. But I also think that, first of all, the score of this movie is such a great fantasy score. Like, it rips. Like, I was like, honestly, this is a score that I will put on sometimes when I'm playing D&D and stuff, because it just gets you in that mood. The score is done by Iltan Eshkri. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing that probably. But yeah, this is like, especially the one song that I always think of is like the kind of the training montage when he's having the sword fight up on the pirate ship. I absolutely love that scene. And then also the editing in this movie, the cinematography, who is done by Ben Davis, who's a guy that's gone to do a lot of Marvel movies. He's editing in this, I thought, was phenomenal. And editing is something that, I didn't notice the first few times. And that's what real good editing is when you don't notice it. And this time, after watching it a few times, I was like, wow, like, there's all these match cuts that I thought were phenomenal. Like, for example, one that really stuck out in my memory as being great was when you have Mark Strong and he tosses the scrying bones or whatever, and then they start to come back down, and then it just cuts to Nicole Kidman, and she's doing the same thing. I was like, Michelle Pfeiffer. That's such a cool post. Oh my god, I did it again. Michelle Pfeiffer.
I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. It's because
it's Batman.
Batman, yes. Batman Returns, Batman Forever. I used to fucking do that all the time. I would actually get, not Nicole Kidman confused, but I would get, oh my god. It was from Batman 89, the one who plays Vicky Vale.
Vicky Vale. Yeah.
Oh my god. Kim Basinger. I would call her Michelle Pfeiffer all the fucking time. So I feel you on that. I absolutely feel you on that. Blame the bat.
Michael Keaton, Bruce Wayne did a lot of blonde ladies, all right? But
he really did, yeah.
But no, that scene, specifically that match cut, I thought was so cool, and there is so much great editing, and it really does build on that fact that, like, yeah, these stories are so interconnected, and they are kind of just like, these characters are all just feel like have their destiny to kind of like combine and meet up. It feels like their destinies have been so intertwined for years, since before some of them were born, and it's all heading to this point, and the editing in this really does a good job of reinforcing that.
No, yeah, I get what you mean. I haven't done a lot of editing myself, but like, I don't know if you're kind of basing it also with like the pacing, where it kind of bounces off really well from scene to scene, where it knows when to slow down and also knows when to pick up. So I was very appreciative of that. And just, again, I wish we did this more often. I mean, not me, but like films in general nowadays. I know the big thing is, using CGI to create a big set or anything, or, these big scenes. Avatar 2 just came out, so I know that's just a butt fuck of CGI everywhere. And, I don't know, I haven't seen it, so I don't know what, I can't really say.
Technically, it's amazing. I'll say that on a technical level. They do some really cool stuff. The mocap stuff where they combine real performances and CG, I got to give it to them for that. The rest of the movie, absolutely. It's another story, but...
All I've heard. Yeah, about it.
Sorry to cut you off, though.
Oh, no worries. But, like, mainly, I love filming on location. Like, it just fucking works, man. Like, it works every time. My girlfriend woke up because I watched it early in the morning. she woke up and it was a scene where Daredevil and Claire Danes are walking, and it's just the big, just hills, mountainside, all that greenery, just gorgeous. And like the first thing she goes, "Oh my god, I wish I was there." And that's for me is like the magic of films is like on location. Just look at that shit, dude. It's huge. And then the scene where the unicorn pops out of the forest, I was like, yes, that's fantasy. Fucking unicorns in a forest, perfect. I know they just put a horn on the horse, done. Magic is made. And I'm like, fucking awesome, dude. Like, I guess if you want to call that simple technical shit, I love it. Like, I'm just a big fan of it.
Yeah, no, they shot a lot of this in like the Scottish Highlands and the island of Skye, and you can tell because it looks so good. It looks better, so much better than if it was, this was a time when they were like, oh wow, we have all these things we can do green screens and we can do all this stuff, and a lot of that stuff has not held up well. But the movies that do shoot on real locations like this or like Lord of the Rings look so good today still.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, just go. I mean, we just talked about I believe we talked about Andor on one of our podcasts, and just look at that, look how fucking great it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Obi-Wan Kenobi, love Mandalorian and everything, but like you can tell a lot of the stuff's filmed on that big, cool CG dome where it creates a set, and it's cool. But look at Andor, look how great that looked compared to like the other stuff. But I just it just boggles my mind. I'm like, people need to know more about this, but
yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I don't know. Well, did you guys? I was gonna ask you guys a couple questions about just for our 100th episode. But before that, dive into that, did you guys have any other thoughts here on Stardust?
I really hope that with Matt Murdock with Charlie Cox, becoming more of a in the limelight again. With coming back to the character of Daredevil, he also has like a new show coming out, like a mini series that I'm interested in looking into. But yeah, I'm hoping that with that, people will be either reminded of this movie or like, oh, like I want to see more of Charlie Cox, and definitely check this movie out a lot more. I mean, I really hope that a lot of more podcasts and media just covers Stardust. I think Watch Mojo is like included on a bunch of their lists as well. And
I haven't written one yet, but I'm sure it'll come up at some point.
Yeah, I've heard it before, but yeah, I really do hope that just a lot more, this movie becomes a lot more notorious than it is already.
Yeah, go check it out.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like I'm a huge fan of this. I think it is some of the best fantasy stuff that we'll get, and it's almost kind of. It's not a good thing that it didn't succeed, but it's almost like at least that we know, like it just kind of exists on its own. It doesn't have all these other things coming in. Like you don't have to make a sequel years later. It can just be its own story and its own thing, and I like that. Yeah, one of my favorites.
Also with Neil Gaiman, great, like his work being adapted even more. Besides Sandman, like we had mentioned before, like the Graveyard Book is going to be getting a
adaptation,
and
we had Good Omens.
Good Omens season 2 is coming out.
I still need to finish that. American Gods. At least
season 1, Brian Fuller,
season.
Right?
Yeah.
Just watch the first season, Brian Fuller. If you want to finish it, go ahead. It's a little rough, but
just watch it until was it Orlando Jones is in it? So that's what I've heard.
Oh, until he's kicked out when he's not in it anymore. Yeah, I think I've seen the first 2 seasons, but just watch the first season's great. It's a wonderful, wonderful first season. A lot of great world building, and then just go watch Good Omens.
I think also Norse mythology. It was.
Oh my god! Yes, please. If you're really, really into Norse mythology, he does a fucking outstanding job, telling those stories in just his perfect Neil Gaiman voice. Where it's just that book is just full of great shit. Like it's funny, and then other times you got action, and then it's just like he might as well, like he makes it seem like he did it himself. Like, please go and check that out. Norse mythology,
Oh no,
especially
I was
now you
saying
know
I
all
think it's
you.
been optioned. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, they're
Into
making
like
it,
a series. I think so. It's been optioned, not like greenlit, but like he's like given the rights or something
but just in
to
Nice.
be
general, like
adapted. Yeah.
go please. I read. Reading is fun. I'm a big backer of books, so go out and read. That book is just it's a blast. You just can't go wrong. And if you're, God of War Ragnarok just came out, and if you're like, I need some good Norse mythology stuff to read, go read that.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, very nice. Well, guys, since this is our 100th episode, I wanted to take a second and reflect on some of that, because this has been a real journey for us, I think. And I wanted to ask you guys, what are some of your guys' favorite episodes that we've done? Like, what are some really standout moments or memories that you have for movies or episodes that we've done?
I was thinking back on this because like we're hoping to like reach out, to the people at Frida, for next year doing another live podcast. I just really did love doing a live podcast with you guys at the Frida. I mean, Frida's been such an awesome theater and just keep on falling in love with it. And so to do a show there was really crazy, and to just have that kind of audience. I really hope that we get to do that again. And then, getting to talk to like people outside of the three of us, getting these movies like suggested to us, like with among ourselves, but then also among our special guests, and to just geek out, I think has been a highlight for me, and is always a highlight for me. And just talking to you guys about a movie and breaking it down, not really breaking it down, but I mean just like talking about how we enjoy it, or how it kind of like flusters us, or how it's like, I don't know, it might have missed the mark on this at moment, or hit the mark here, and just trying to keep us to have a positive podcast, I would say, for the most part,
Mhm.
is a really awesome feat, and I am very proud of us for doing that, and to just talk about movies and just vibe with it. I don't know, but yeah, it's just
Yeah, no,
just
absolutely.
been an awesome experience with that.
For me personally, one of my the one that the movie that I picked that I had a a great time with, just finally getting to talk about it out in the world, which now all of a sudden with part 6 coming out, it seems like now the franchise is still alive and well. The Scream 2 one I really love doing because
Mhm.
that's probably one of my favorite sequels of all time, and it was a sequel series as well. So I was just very happy, we got to talk about it, and I got to just throw it out there in the ether and everything. And hopefully people enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. But hands down, favorite episode. The live show was great as well too. The live show was a lot of fun, super scary at first, but I had a blast. It got me hooked to wanting to do more live shows. But for sure, favorite episode had to be 13 Ghosts.
Yeah.
Whenever I tell anybody I do a podcast and everyone just goes, "Oh, what you guys talk about movies?" I'm like, "Yeah, oh, what episode should I check out, or should I start from the beginning?" I usually say you can start wherever you want. There's no like continuity you got to worry about. Maybe just jokes or stuff that we reference later on, but I'm like, if you just want to laugh and have a fucking great time listening to our podcast
Mm.
is 13 Ghosts for sure. Like, it was so much fun. I think we were laughing at least like 80% of the time.
Yeah.
And the
Well, I
movie,
mean, yeah.
the movie itself is fucking fun. It's a great watch. It's just
It's
easily my favorite episode.
Yeah, we have that clip, and that's like pinned to our front page of our YouTube. And
Mhm.
every time I'm logging into our page to upload video, and hopefully with the next 100, I'll become more consistent with that, with doing it on time. But but yeah, like I always like pause and watch that clip or listen to that clip, and just you carried that episode.
Yeah,
I think
man, you're
just
the go to that episode.
because your quick timing on jokes were just and you took us all by surprise with, and you could hear it in that clip, the clip of the I don't want to make you joke, the don't throw stones in glass houses, but you said it so naturally that it took us all by surprise and we just started laughing. And that you you were so on top of your game on that episode because of how much you pointed out the ridiculousness of these moments, specifically with like, you know, like the video coming back on and off and stuff. And yeah, like definitely is a highlight, funny video for that one.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
I completely agree. Like both what you guys like, both of those or all those episodes you guys have pointed out. But yeah, definitely, like you said, Ariel, our live show, that was such a great, cool experience. The Frida is such a historic landmark. It's a great independent cinema, and to be up there was so freaking cool. And then yeah, 13 Ghosts. Like I was dying laughing, and I think that yeah, that it just really shows that we have, you know, this great interplay between us. That this part of it comes from just, you know, us having been friends so long and having talked about movies for so long before the podcast, but also I think we just all naturally get along really well and have a really good cadence with each other, and it's been really great to bring that to a recorded medium. And just to, you know, talk about some, those are both great, some other episodes that I really enjoyed. A lot of our episodes that we've had with some great guests, we've had on guests that I can't believe, that are people that are huge, that I have been huge fans of. Just to like to name a couple, you know, Trisha and Alex from Beyond the Screenplay, Mikey Newman, Phil Isco from podcasts like It's 1999, like, and so many other people too. Like all of these huge podcasts I listen to all the time, and they were all so kind to grace us with their presence. Guest episodes are really always really fun because we get to bring in, you know, something that we haven't, you know, wouldn't think of ourselves, get to get a new perspective on it, which is always fun to bring someone to our dynamic. But some other just episodes that I've loved, like you said, Alan, the sequel series was super great. I think Star Trek Beyond, that episode was a lot of fun. I really had a blast with that episode and getting to talk with you guys. And then it was, I wouldn't say contentious, but it was definitely sparked some really great debate. The Silence episode that we did, I thought that was such a good episode. It felt like we were really getting into some great film criticisms and nitty gritty. I've gotten some really great feedback from some people that I respect a lot about that episode too, and I think it was really just excellently done. And this is probably recency bias, but go back and listen to our last episode, Green Knight, the Green Knight that we did for our Christmas episode. I think that was honestly a lot of fun.
And,
But
and
yeah,
I've been
like,
pushing Green Knight as a Christmas movie now everywhere because I'm just like, again, like how I spoke earlier, I was in that Discord and they were like talking about Christmas movies, and they were kind of doing that thing where they're like, well, Die Hard's not really a Christmas movie, Batman Returns isn't really a Christmas movie, and I was like, well, Green Knight is for sure, kind of thing. So and it's an A24 joint, so I have to push it. I love that studio. So yeah, I was like, hey, you got to listen to our podcast. We'll talk about it. We'll tell you. It takes place on 2 Christmases, so you can't say it's not. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm glad. That's what I love so much about this show is bringing new perspectives and stuff like that. You know, there's movies that you guys have suggested to me that were movies that I would not have watched, you know, probably if it wasn't for this podcast. Things that, like Ariel, you giving me The Uninvited, which we covered, and I had such a blast doing. Alan, you finally got me to watch the first 2 Scream movies, which I had been putting off forever because I wasn't a big slat, and had a blast with that. So, and hopefully we are doing the same thing that you guys have been doing for me. Hopefully I've been doing for you. We are also doing for the people listening. So that's what's been just so cool about this podcast, to do it for 100 episodes, to talk about these 100 films that honestly, all of them, there's something special about all of them. Even the joke ones that we do for April Fool's Day have been a blast to talk about, you know. So it's all been amazing, you know. And thank you guys so much for being my co-hosts and my friends, and for doing all this with me, because, you know, none of us could do it alone. The 3 of us are all, you know, I think really important to each other, and this podcast would not be what it was if it wasn't for each of us and our distinct takes and personalities and insights onto film, because I think we all bring something really interesting and unique to the table, and not a lot of podcasts. I mean, some can, but like I think that's one thing that helps us stand out, is that we all do bring something new to the table and something different and a different way of looking at movies or analyzing them, and it's never boring or uninteresting to me. I always have a blast recording these, editing these, and just talking with you guys all the time about this kind of stuff. It's been really awesome.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out also like one of our other guests, like JPG. He's always been awesome to
Oh yeah.
He's among I think he has to be one of my favorite guests, because he's always a delight when he comes on. And I just also wanted to give a shout out to our extended undercast company members of my brother, Sergio Ortiz, and also Alan's cousin, and our friend Fred Torres, because they're both founders. I consider them as founders of this of this company and podcasts, and they continue just in the background to provide their critique, and not critiques, but their inspiration and their their jokes and stuff like that. We like, I always bring in my brother's like jokes if he's watching the movie with me, and comment how the bro says this and said that and stuff like that while we were watching it. So yeah, they're always there in the background. And I just want to say a thank you to them as well.
Oh yeah, big thank you to them. I miss having them around. I know just life happens, and you just got to do what you got to do. But I really miss having them around. I think some of the, not specifically the episodes we released, but like when we were doing them, I think the most fun I had was the early ones, because we would do them in person, and we would do them in my parents' backyard when I used to live with them. And we would get like a bunch of snacks, we get food, pizza, drinks and stuff. By like the end of it, I was fucking hammered. We would record like 2-3 episodes maybe at a time, and Derek and I would be drinking and stuff.
That's why maybe this is the best way, because
that's what. Yeah,
even though it made for some fun moments and stuff like that, it did take 5 hours.
Yeah,
but
the audio was pretty rough. The audio was rough. And shit in the background, and we were all it was like what audio? Oh my god, that was fucking rough. Like, go back and listen to like Speed Racer episode. It's good discussion, but god.
Yeah, like I wish you guys, the listeners, I don't know, I wish we somehow had like a camera or something recording the process in the beginning, because it was a lot of setting up, and it was a lot of like talking, and then it was just we'd be setting shit up, we'd sit down, and then we start talking about it, we'd finish one and take a break, and then everyone starts drinking, and we starts eating, and then we start trying to set up again, and then we would just be doing it for hours and hours, to the point where like by the end of it, I think I was hammered. Derek would sometimes be hammered,
and then Ariel, I think I know where you're going with this.
No. I want to talk about one specific episode, just to, if we're gonna peek behind the curtain.
Absolutely, go for it.
It just popped into my head. But if you go back and listen to the Prestige episode, my brother's in half of the episode, but he went to the bathroom.
Oh no, that wasn't the Prestige. What episode was that? Oh my god.
It was it wasn't Prometheus.
It was one of the early ones. It wasn't like that first one, but it was a pretty early one. Oh, was it the Solo? I think it might have been Solo.
It might have been Solo. I
think it was Solo.
But he essentially went to the bathroom, and then he didn't come out for a while, and I was like, oh my, I'm just gonna jump in, because I wasn't like really in that. I was in the background of that episode. And I jumped in, and then he never came back until after we recorded, after we stopped the recording. And I was like, what the hell happened? And he's like, I didn't want to come out because didn't want to mess up the recording. And I'm like, the whole reason I jumped on was because you left to the bathroom. So yeah. That's some background.
Yep. And speaking of background, remember the fucking Disneyland fireworks that would go on? Because we were recording
Yeah.
Oh my God,
fucking like
yes.
downtown fucking Anaheim. Like you could like fucking walk to Disneyland and just the fireworks. All right, we can't record between 8 and 9 because the fireworks are going
Yeah,
off.
like right it's 9:30. It's like everybody break time. Everyone stop, and then we'd stop recording, and then me and Fred would go smoke cigarettes or something, and we waiting in the meantime, and like because we lived in that neighborhood, so for us it was just another day, and we're just like talk whatever fucking yeah, so we're gonna talk about that, and then when they're over, we're like, all right, cool, we're back.
Yeah.
But I think one little thing too behind the curtain, I don't know how it got brought up, and Derek always brings it up when we go out drinking, and I guess, and it had nothing to do with him. I get this kind of ties back to Stardust because Captain Shakespeare, but no, not Shakespeare. Sorry, never mind. Scratch that. Never mind. That did not make sense. But anyways, I guess to Ariel's episode that we did for Christmas Carol, somehow it got brought up, and it was again later on at the end of the night. We probably already recorded a couple episodes, and I'm fucking hammered, and I'm with Derek, and I think I'm smoking a cigarette and talking to him, and I guess there was like a lull in the conversation, and I just go, yeah, fuck Charles Dickens, and Derek's like, what? And it was just, it came out of nowhere. I just was mad about it, and Derek's just like, what? We haven't even talked about Dickens, dude, at all. Like, nothing has been related to him. And I'm like, just fuck that guy. And then now every time we go out and something gets brought up with Charles Dickens, Derek's like, hey, fuck Charles Dickens. Right? Like, yeah. Still don't know where it came from.
We're just like chilling. Now fuck Charles Dickens. I was like, whoa, what did he?
Like, this came out of fucking nowhere. Like, wow. I almost got Dickens confused with Shakespeare right now. I can't believe it.
Well,
yeah,
iconic English writers, I guess,
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's just I wish you guys were able to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. I think there was even a point we tried cooking hot dogs, and we had like all the recording stuff to the left, and then the barbecue right there, and it was just like trying to cook and trying to eat and record all at once was just outside. It was. You got to start somewhere, man. I guess.
That's the thing. Like I feel like I love those early days, right? No, they were like great for they were fun, but like man, I feel like we have just come so far. We started doing like the most indie possible, like literal garage band podcast.
Oh yeah, we were
recording in a sweaty ass garage.
Yeah.
The hottest garage on earth.
Oh my god! Like we can't just to think back and how far we've come, and like how much better everything sounds, and just how just on a technical standpoint how much we've all progressed. And like I was recording my fucking phone for a while, and just like we've learned so much, and it's been a lot of it by trial and error, and just people that we know, like JPG, and just like who like has been one of my friends for years, coming on and talking to us, and just everybody, just other people in podcasts. Shout out to Genre Geeks, they've given me a lot of really good advice about recording and stuff like that. And just slowly over, like we've really come a long way, guys. Not to say we were bad in the beginning, but it was not the same. Now
everyone's bad in the beginning. Everyone starts off. I mean, like, go back and listen to like any fucking podcast. Like, I'm a big Kevin Smith guy. Go like, he has Smodcast. He's like thousands of episodes in, but go in the beginning, and he even makes fun of himself nowadays, where he's like, I was so fucking emo and I was so mad, and I love Last Podcast on the Left, and even they say the same shit where they're like, we weren't doing as much research as we did, or blah blah blah. Everyone starts off shitty, and everyone gets better over time. So
yeah, so I'm really proud of us, honestly, because I think we really have been dedicated to this podcast, and really I've loved to see what it's become over 100 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And to 100 more. Thankfully we're in a podcast genre where it's going to be very hard to like run out of shit to talk about.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of underrated movies.
Yeah, we're very blessed in that aspect, because movies are being created every 5 seconds, and there's just so many undiscovered gems. So
yeah, movies are always going to be coming out, so yeah, we'll always be here, because there's always going to be a movie that isn't an Avatar or isn't a Marvel movie, even though I love Marvel movies, but you know, there's always going to be movies that are going to not get the big notoriety that are considered middle ground, like we mentioned in this earlier in this episode, but they're always, you know, they still are owed their dues and they're owed their views.
Yeah, no, that's incredibly well said. And then so I just want to thank some people. We know we've talked about a couple people that we want to thank, but I do want to thank specifically a lot of our guests. Like we did mention JPG, Logan, like I said, from Beyond the Screenplay. We've had Alex and Trisha. From Matt and Mark, we've also had Matt on a couple times. We're going to have him on again soon. From Force 5, we had Jason on. Like I said, we had Mikey and Mikey Newman, the YouTuber from his channel, who's incredible, like Phil Iskov, showrunner of Sleepy Hollow and podcast like it's 1999. We had Larry, whose show is on a hiatus now, but his show, My Favorite Movie Is, like he was great to have on, talking about Thank You for Smoking, talking about Inside Llewyn Davis with Austin from Welcome Matt, Damien, my friend who I do another podcast with, having him on was really great. So hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but yeah, we've had a lot of really great guests. I also want to take a second to thank some of our patrons, because we do have a Patreon, and it's just $1 a month. And if there's, then we have a lot of people who just, it amazes me that they give us their hard-earned dollars, and we're always eternally grateful. And I wanted to shout out some of them. Our buddy Juan, so you know he's a patron, so thank you, Juan. You're a good dude.
Shout out, Juan. Yeah. Thank you, Mijo.
Yeah, and then Why We Watch, Eddie from Why We Watch is a patron, so thank you, Eddie. He's a really great writer. You guys should check out his website, Why We Watch. Mikey, or is it Mikey or Mickey, Alan?
Mickey Kovac, big shout out to him. Thank you so much. He's been patron for quite a while now. Big supporter. Really appreciate him. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, Juan and Mickey Kovac are really close friends of mine, and really appreciate you guys very much. Thank you so much.
And then, like I mentioned, Damien, well, you know, he's been on the show. He's also a patron, so shout out Damien. Thank you to you. Also, my friend Chelsea has one of our original patrons. Thank you so much, Chelsea. She's a great friend, and somebody who has always been very, very supportive of me and all of my artistic endeavors, including podcasts. Your friend Marie, one of our patrons, and then also shout out to the first patron we ever got, which is my mom. So thank you, Mom, for thank you for supporting.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
I just want to shout out my friend Marie, you know, in Houston, Texas, my Comic-Con pal, the Supergirl to my Green Arrow. Just an awesome person. She does awesome things as well, cosplaying and things like that. And so thank you, Marie.
Yep. So thank you, all of you guys. Just real fast, I also want to shout.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I wanted to shout out a couple of shows that have had me on. Like I said, Genre Greeks has had me on a couple times. I've been on some of these podcasts that I mentioned, like Matt and Mark. I've been on there a few times. It's always a ton of fun to go on the Matt and Mark movie show. You guys are great. I'm always glad to be back whenever they'll have me. Common Ride with Me has been a great podcast that's had me on. Superhero Cinephiles has had both me and Ariel on. You got to get on there at some point, Alan. I think you'd have a blast.
Totally down.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of great podcasts that I've had really great relationship with. So Ren Pod with Morgan, a lot of great people. Force 5 sent me on. So all these people, thank you guys for being in our podcasting realm and coming on and letting me on. And it does feel like, you know, it's great. Something I was not really expecting when we got into podcast, is that there's a really great community of podcasters out there, and people are really awesome and very, very supportive of you. And I am always eternally grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to give a shout out to I know we already talked about the Frida, but big shout out to the Frida, you know, for giving us our first live show. And it's just a wonderful theater in Santa Ana, California. If you live in SoCal, please check it out. they're a theater that, like, I know it sounds dumb to say, but they love movies. They very much love movies. You know, all of us have gone to the Freedom many times as patrons, and we've had an absolute blast. We saw The Room. We saw.
I just saw their Harry Potter marathon over 2 weekends, 2 Saturdays, and just amazing, and just like reminding me of like why I love those movies, but they just overall remind you of why cinema is like such a special medium. Yeah,
it's definitely a theater that when you go in there, like don't get me wrong, you know, AMC's, Cinemark, all those theaters are great. They're wonderful, but like the Frida, there's an absolutely different kind of energy in there. Everyone in there is just like you. Like when you go in there, they're here to watch cinema. They're here to have a blast with you. The energy is always different. Like The Room, I finally got to see The Room with you guys and Juan, one of our patrons, and we had a fucking absolute blast there. It was so much fun, and like you just know everybody there are absolute film people, and if you're a big film person, if big film person, average film person, whatever, go there, check them out. It's just a wonderful experience. Almost every single time I've been there. Like, you know, I got to see Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, one of my favorite films of all time, and it was just a blast. Like everyone else there, they're a fan like you, not in the sense of like, yeah, you go watch a Marvel movie. You know, I love Marvel movies, but you know, that's a different kind of crowd. But when you go to the Frida, it's a big thing. And then my other big shout out, I guess she's always been there with me since the beginning, is my girlfriend Manelli. She pretty much watches a lot of these movies with me, and she's always there. She's always been very supportive, so I thank her so much. She's been supportive since the very beginning we started this. She would, you know, be there with us in the live stuff. Sometimes she wouldn't hang out. She'd be doing her own thing, but a lot of the time she watches these movies with me, and some of the things I even throw out there, I've mentioned her before. I give some of her opinions about it whenever I can, so big shout out to her. I love her so much, and I really, really am very grateful that she's been my partner in this, a little shadow partner in this the whole time. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody.
That was awesome. That got me, man. Oh man, yeah, I love you guys. So this has been a blast. And I love the listeners. So yeah, thank you guys for 100 episodes.
You guys, especially listeners. I always want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from you guys more often. Please check out our socials, because like, you know, just when you put a like there or comment anything, it's a big fucking deal. Like, it's a huge deal for us.
Well, thank you guys. You know, definitely, you know, I don't want to spend too long on the plugs because we've had a big wrap up here, but check out our other shows, you know, Gateway episodes, season 2 just wrapped. Check out Ariel's show you've never seen. Check out Can I Say Something? And like we said, check out all the socials. And we'll see you guys on episode 101.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for being amazing as always.
Take it easy, everybody.
Oh, that went well, I thought.